goodness gracious, beautiful, wonderful scorekeepers. It is a beautiful Monday afternoon. And it is time for another episode of your favorite podcast, The Score. Well, I guess it's Tuesday when you're hearing this, but it's Monday when we're recording it. Anyway, um, well, it's true. I am your host, your very tired host, Rocky Jones, and as always, I'm here with my amazing co-hosts. First, we have the beautiful, the brilliant, the I'm trying to think of another B word, bombastic. Dr. Lee Bynum. Hello, Dr. Lee Bynum. You're looking especially gorgeous. You just got back from vacation?
Buongiorno. No, I did not get back from
Oh.
anybody's vacation. Um, but yeah, I will take that I look amazing today. The
Oh, I thought you said you were on vacation. I haven't talked to you in like forever.
Oh,
no, I think you might have perhaps misremembered that I was going out of town on business and decided to make that a vacation. But
Oh,
it was
gotcha.
something other than a vacation. I will definitely say that.
Oh no.
oh.
Well, that doesn't sound good.
Well, it sounds like 2025, right?
Oh God. What is this dimension we're living in?
Child, I don't know, but I want out.
I really
Don't we
think,
all?
don't we all? Don't we all? Well, before I get into my half-baked conspiracy theories, and of course, that beautiful, mellifluous laugh is the marvelous and moisturized Paige Reynolds. Hello, Paige. How are you?
Hello. I am all right. All things considered. You know, as my grandma used to say, can't complain. Can't complain. Stuff is falling to shit, but can't can't quite complain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm.
Personally, on a personal level, I will complain about all that's going on politically, nationally, internationally, but personally, things are good.
Okay, well, that's good. That's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was going to say that there's this theory that has come out in the last couple of weeks that actually our galaxy and our little part of the universe is inside a black hole. And that's
Mm.
why everything is going to shit, and that's why we are decaying and dying, and there's no one around us because everyone else, all the other intelligent life out there is like, we're not going in that black hole to like say hello to those poor people. And perhaps perhaps this is not the natural state of things. This is just us have we just have happened to get sucked into this terrible void. So I don't know. It's a theory.
I mean, that's one way to look at it. Or we're just
Yeah.
experiencing the natural consequences of some humans making terrible decisions.
Ding, ding, ding.
Well, that, yes. I mean, it could be a both and situation.
I mean, my theory is just that, we fucked around and now we're finding out.
That's
Yes.
the theory that sounds right to me.
Cause and effect.
Several hundred years of cause and effect.
Yep. Chickens coming home to roost. Come up in all of it.
Well, I had an adventure yesterday. Maybe this will get people's spirits up.
Go for it.
Well, so I'm just sort of in this phase of life. I'm starting this new chapter, and I think it goes, beyond sort of this new job that I've just started. And I don't know, I think it's just sort of a change in my kind of general mindset. Maybe it's Uranus entering Gemini. I'm a Gemini rising. It's my first house, so I'm supposed to be going through this entire sort of revitalization of like my entire personality and looks and vibe, and the next 8 years is going to be, profound change, supposedly. But yeah, I'm just sort of in this phase where I'm just sort of like trying stuff and just being like, why not? And I feel like you know, I saw this TikTok the other night. I was scrolling and it was this astrology girly, and she read me and the last 15 to 20 years of my life to absolute filth. And I was just
Mhm.
like, oh my. And just like this tendency that I have, to out of loyalty or, desiring sort of stability, to stay in situations where I'm sort of feeling, where not feeling, but like being manipulated and exploited. And I think we have all heard me say over the last couple of years, like, do people think I'm stupid? Because I'm not. And it's like, girl, maybe you kind of are because you know you're being manipulated and you're staying in these situations and letting these people manipulate you. But we're not doing that anymore. And we're having fun and we're trying stuff out. And so a few weeks ago, before I started this job, dear friend of the show, Rick Hoops, go
Hey.
back to our back
Hey.
catalog and you can listen to their brilliance on the score. Had an Instagram story, like a friend of a friend is casting for a modeling shoot, and we're looking for people who are masked and queer, and it pays 1 day of work pays $500. And I was like,
Ah.
I could use $500, and I'm cute and I have muscles now, so let's see what this is about. And so I auditioned and I booked it, which is
Yay! Oh my gosh!
insane. So we shot yesterday. Turns out I was thinking that it was going to be a photo shoot. It's a commercial,
Oh,
and it's a national commercial.
oh.
Yeah. And it was football themed, so that was straight. The audition, like I had to like self-tape it. It was like pretend like you're having a pleasant conversation with a friend, and like that you see your friends from far away and you're waving to them and beckoning them towards you, whatever. This was all like, no, run around on the field, run up and down this hill in 93-degree heat, like scream like you're a football man. So I did my best. I don't know if I I don't know if I made the grade. But this fall, you will be able to supposedly see this commercial. I don't think I can say much about it, but on Sunday afternoons, during uh, football games, I guess. So I'm just
Okay.
saying, I'm just as a lesson to everyone, just like try the thing. If the thing's presented to you and it sounds like it's fun, don't listen to your amygdala. Like, just try it. You never know.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
stepping outside the comfort zone and being rewarded for it and just delightful things coming from it.
Right? It's so
I love that for
crazy.
you.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody knew that. Like, if we were taking a break and we were standing in the tent, and the director came over to like a group of like four of us, and I was just thinking like, oh, this is gonna be like some like social media thing, like whatever. And she was like, oh no, this is a TV commercial. Like this will be all over the country. So I hope I don't become a meme, but
There are worse
how it is.
fates.
I suppose. I suppose. But I don't know. I don't know if I want that to be my 15 minutes. But
Well, look on the bright side, because it's about sports ball. There's a population of people who co-host this show with you who will never ever know if you become a meme. So you will be able to continue at least with this part of your life unchanged.
Okay. All right. I'll take that. I'll take that. So, we've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about today. I think
Hmm.
first and foremost, the question that I need to ask, because we haven't talked in a minute. Is Laverne Cox, is she okay?
Oh,
Is
Hmm.
she okay?
um, maybe not. I don't know what's happening in her usual group chats of
Yeah.
friends and things that she couldn't have said what she needed to say in that space.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm guessing no. I'm guessing things are not okay.
I'm a bit speechless. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Laverne, I guess it was last week, was uh, promoting a talk, I guess she was giving about her upcoming memoir. Or maybe it's already come out, I don't know. But revealed during the pandemic that she fell in love with and was dating a MAGA supporting NYPD officer. And I found that surprising. Made it very clear that, she didn't adopt any of his politics, but that they were so in love, and I guess they are no longer together. Um, and that feels strange.
Well, I don't know anything about Laverne, about her oeuvre, about her politics. And this doesn't really make me want to go out and learn anything at this point. It has made me decide not to see a production that was happening, that she was a part of, that I was actually really, really interested in. There's a musical called The Drowsy Chaperone that isn't really about queer people or black people, but it is about the I guess the concept of being really into something and kind of sitting on the outside of that world. And they were doing like a one night concert with an all trans and non-binary cast that included Laverne and Alex Newell and some other people who I like actively wanted to see. And then after you shared this news, Rocky, I was like, let me save my little piece of money for something else because I have like a deep, like a almost visceral response to queer people putting themselves into these spaces where they are with people who are not, and in some way, shape, or form, right? Not even necessarily just romantically. It could be platonically or professionally, with these people who don't think that we deserve rights, right? Whose like sort of fundamental position politically is that we are less than human, and we don't, and we shouldn't have access to many of the same basic things that they have, and they absolutely have been able to take for granted forever. I can't make it make sense in my head, and you know, far be it from me to judge a person that I don't know. I never do that kind of thing. But I am absolutely not participating in any of this. This sounds stomped down wild to me, and I don't want any parts in pretending like I can make sense of a woman of color being with a MAGA person or an NYPD officer. Like none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense to me. And I don't know, maybe it lends some credence to your black hole theory because it's definitely giving some old bullshit from where I sit.
I also just feel like I cannot entertain it, don't have space for it. Not right now. Especially not right now.
Especially, especially.
Especially not right
Mm-mm.
now.
No,
Girl, in
no.
2025, look at the state of the world and all that we know now about. I'm sorry, I heard NYPD officer, MAGA supporting,
Oh,
and that might as well just be I'm dating a Ku Klux Klan member. It
basically,
I ain't got patience for it. And I feel like especially as a black trans woman, she should know better
yeah.
about listen, I support trans rights and trans wrongs. We do not have to be perfect. We do not have to be perfect. We do not have to be exceptional. I don't want to go along with like respectability politics or anything like that. And at the same time, you do have to be responsible about your voice and what it means in the mainstream media. Girl, we need to focus on healthcare, housing, uh, hello, trans people being incarcerated in places that do not match their gender identity. There's all kinds of bullshit going on. And now this is the story that we're looking at. This
Yeah.
is the story and about your sympathy for a MAGA supporting NYPD officer, aka 2025 KKK. What I'm
And
so disappointed. I'm so
yeah,
disappointed.
And can
yeah.
I ask Rocky, because you're the one who shared this little tidbit with me.
Mm.
Did Laverne use the term MAGA to
Yes,
describe him?
yes,
Because here's my thing. In this moment where MAGA is having its own little civil war around whether or not it thinks pedophilia is a thing that should be protected or not, why now to share this information? Like, I don't get it. And I mean, I'm with you, Paige. Like, I don't have any expectation anybody's going to be, you know, a paragon of some outmoded virtues or is upholding things that are not true to their own experience. But why choose to share this with the rest of us right now? Like, that's the part that I'm like, I don't know what the takeaway is. And for someone who has had an appreciation for her existence in the public without necessarily knowing enough to be a fan, like it, I just find it very dislocating. It's like I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this information. I really I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it.
and I will also say that the way that she described him, the whole vibe of the clip was her being sort of very coy and like, oh, I'm gonna let you in on some juicy tea about me that's in my little memoir. Like, ooh, isn't this a sexy, salacious little thing? And she said that he was a blonde, blue-eyed, mag supporting NYPD officer. And it's like, okay, girl, like you enjoy whatever flavor of dick you enjoy, like that's fine. But like we don't need to hear about it. That doesn't need to be our business. Like at all, especially in this time. Like when I hear that, it sort of goes back to what I just said about being in situations where I'm being manipulated and exploited, and I realize it, and I'm staying in those situations like anyway because of whatever reason. Like, so you were sort of talking about how you were in love with this man during the pandemic, who then, a couple of years later, presumably, went out and voted completely against your rights to exist. And you're like sitting here in 2025, not sort of feeling any sort of uh, remorse, I guess the word is about that. Um, to all of these people, especially people in the queer and trans community who look up to you. Like you're talking about this as if this is like this like salacious, like funny little tidbit from my misbegotten youth 5 years ago. Not like, oh my goodness, like I thought love was love, but it turns out that, there are more things at stake. The whole vibe of it felt like this sort of weird, sort of uh, I don't know, like this bizarro version. Because, I believe that love is love, love who you want, as long as you're not hurting yourself or each other or anyone else. Like, Go ahead, have fun, do your thing. But this is just like this weird, like quasi sort of it feels like, a Jewish person in the 1940s being like, I had a little affair with, Hitler. Like what are you what are we talking about? Like it's strange to me and really off-putting and really counterproductive and sort of a hijacking of sort of the language of inclusion. Like, oh, well, we can include, like even those of us who are queer folks of color, especially trans folks of color, we can include white MAGA supporters and police officers in our bedrooms and our love lives. Because love is love. Like, what?
Wait, is that
No,
what she
that's not how
said?
this works. No,
Ugh.
I'm no, 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 no. No, 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 no. I'm just being hyperbolic.
I mean, but the fact that it was in question,
Right.
already to me speaks to why this is like why this is such a weird, a weird moment, right? And I think we are in a weird moment where we are asking ourselves to really think hard about what our values are and why some of them may look different or make less sense in this particular stretch of time. I was with some old friends yesterday who I'm super excited to see, and they are a husband and wife pair who I've been friends with for like 100 years, and they live in Europe now. And the wife is American, the husband is not. And I was, sort of talking through with the husband, like conceptually, why it was so important for me and for people like me to know that there is support present from people like him, right? And really understanding that in this moment where it feels like the national conversation is around whether queer people and whether immigrants are supposed to have rights, like knowing that we do have a base of support from people who don't look like us. That is a very helpful reminder because I frequently worry that like we are more alone in this moment than we actually are. And I kind of want to know, to our cisgender and heterosexual and non-black um and also black American brethren and sistren, that y'all are here and you care and you're willing to stake something for our rights just like we would do for you. Like I actually personally want to hear that from the people in my life, and I was grateful to be able to hear that, reinforced by him and our other friends who were around in this, for this conversation just at other points in the weekend. So I don't know. I don't know that I think love is love in quite that way right now. Like I really don't know. Like I don't know what space I am supposed to be able to have for these people who just at some fundamental level are okay with voting in a way that says, I don't care if somebody's family is obliterated because they may or may not be here undocumented and some random person is going to sweep them off the street and send them just somewhere. Like I don't know what space I have for that. I definitely don't know what space I have for people who are like, America's gone too far on trans rights when we haven't gone nearly far enough. Like I don't know what I don't know what I'm supposed to do with them. And I'm glad that I don't have those people close to me because I guess I'd be in some kind of moral quandary. But even knowing that they're sharing the same air as me on the beautiful island of Manhattan doesn't feel good. I'm like, I think all of you deserve rights. Like what is your issue that you feel like we're over here some kind of subhumans? Like I really don't get it. And I don't want to share a group chat with these people, let alone my bed, right? Like it's just something I'm having a really hard time processing, a really hard time processing right now.
Yeah, no, to exactly what you were talking about when we were at Pride a few weeks ago. Um, the friends I was with, one of them commented like, "Oh, it looks like there aren't really any straight people here at all." And it was like, okay, like that's fine. That's cool. But also it's a little bit scary because like you said, you just want to feel like you're not alone in this. And it feels like sort of this creeping conservative backlash has people really sort of scared um, to be out there supporting folks like us. And I don't want people in my life who are scared like that. Like,
Mhm.
that's just really sad and disturbing and gross. And yeah, and I especially don't want any of those people like inside of me. That's that's so that ugh. Like, we all know that my husband is white, but he has other, many other fine qualities to recommend him. Uh, and if I for one second thought that he was like that, I would have to, you know,
Murder
not,
him.
well, okay. I was gonna say leave him, but sure.
Yeah.
I mean, six of one, half dozen of the other, I guess. But if
They do
he
say it's cheaper to keep them. Isn't that the phrase from back in the day?
cheaper to keep him.
If you've never heard that.
I don't
Y'all
think
should
I
have been raised in
have.
my house.
But yeah, no, it's just really sad, and I also just sort of felt like in the moment in listening to this, there was this sort of weird even though she said like, well, I didn't adopt any of his politics or whatever. I'm just sort of like, well, what did you talk about? And the fact that, like, you're here 5 years, 4 years later, whatever, sort of talking about this and not with like, your head in your hands. Um, like you're talking about like, ooh, this is some juicy gossip that I'm sharing. Um, like it seems like maybe you did adopt some of his politics a little bit. Maybe, just maybe, because it's not like, hey, young people, I did this thing and I made this mistake, and I'm encouraging you all not to do that. It's more like,
Bingo.
it's more like, ooh, I was naughty.
Yahtzee. I mean that's my whole problem with it, right? And it's not, for the shame factor
No,
of it, but it's instead to be like we all deserve more than being with a person who on some level like devalues our humanity, because that is what the
Right.
vote for MAGA is, right? It, even if it's only about, I care more about my tax breaks than about your ability to walk through your life in physical and emotional safety. Like it's that, right? Like it just bugs me. It bugs me
Yep.
because I want more for for her than that. I want more for everybody than that. It just doesn't. I don't know, y'all. It makes me. I'm having a hard time identifying the emotion. It's like a weird mix of sad and frustrated and angry by proxy. Like it's just it's an unhappy feeling because we don't have to do that. It feels
Mm-mm.
very much imitation of life or something, right?
Ooh, that's what it
it's
is.
yeah.
It's the self-hate. I want her and anyone else who is in this situation of dating white people, non-black people, anybody who's making choices that don't honor your humanity, to just have more love and respect for yourself. Like, and to me, that also, I could say that's separate from like your politics, but it's really not. Like I think it does spread to other things when like your self-regard, especially as a black person, I feel like I've seen it where people kind of regress
Hmm.
on
Yeah.
their it's not just loyalty, because that almost sounds like it's just a kind of tribalism to black people. It's deeper than that. It's, I don't know, there's just a way that like your self-respect, your sense of, I don't know what like justice and like true belonging for black folks really looks like it gets eroded.
Yeah.
I think it
Hmm.
gets eroded where like you want us to uh settle for less, expect less, be okay with dealing with people who just tolerate us, or who uh want to date us or have sexual relations with us without having to fully respect us.
Right.
Right.
And I just feel like that kind of thing is contagious, and it
Yes.
and it
Yeah.
does translate to other parts of your life, politics included. Or if you, does it mean you start dismissing racism when other black folks are facing it? I've definitely seen that one with folks who are acquiescing to whiteness and to homophobia and transphobia, that then you also think that other folks like you should also be okay with accepting less, with accepting disrespect. And it's a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game you playing there, Laverne.
Absolutely. And I feel
Hmm.
like this coming on the heels of the rare sports ball controversy that I was following with Robert Griffin III
Mm.
and
Oh
Angel
my
Reese, right?
gosh.
Please don't get me started on that man.
Ooh.
Because the
Ooh.
slope is so
Mhm.
slippery, and then you sort of get into the comments and you see what some of these younger black men are sort of assuming may be permissible to have like in just like public commentary on, and not that he's the root of it, but I certainly feel like it is opened. It is one of those things that opens the space, right, to greater disrespect of black women, which is disrespect of all of us, right?
Mhm.
Like that there is just no version of that where that's not the case. And it's so it's just disappointing that this is where we're finding ourselves in this moment where we really need to be focused on a type of solidarity because of the political attacks and the attacks on our civil rights that are happening every day in the Trump administration. Like this is absolutely not the time to be divided into, I mean, certainly not along the lines of gender, but even along the lines of diasporic ethnicities, right? Like there's just a problem. But it also points out how deeply rooted some aspects of self-hatred are, and how easy they are to exploit when people recognize that there's something that they want to achieve politically or socially, and they can just hit us right on these fault lines, and it feels like it works every single time.
Absolutely. I mean, they're masters at it, the conservative politics, the Christian right, and the way that people just like sop it up. And maybe even not even realizing it, because like I don't know like if Laverne was standing there in her little pussycat wig. Like I'm glad you didn't see the video, Lee. Because it was bad.
Insult on top of
That
injury.
wig
Right.
was a crime. It was
Mm-mm.
mm-mm.
If I was wearing that wig, I would have treaded lightly. I would have treaded real lightly.
But no, like it was sort of giving like kind of this Kate Goslin sort of, but without the swoop on the side. Like it
Without
was
the
just like
swoop.
spiky and like, and it's just like this sort of conservatism that has sort of, I mean, there's always been black conservatives, right? But they've always been sort of like on the margins. And now it's like here they are, sort of front and center. And it is such a part of the culture that we now have to reckon with that, like people like Laverne Cox, who like 10 years ago, never in a million years would I have thought would have come out publicly and sort of made this stance. Because frankly, it's a stance.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and it's just, I don't know. I feel like, Lee, you were talking about sort of not knowing how to describe this feeling, but I think we could just call it 2025. This mixture of frustration and sadness and hopelessness and because it's so sad and it's so counterproductive and unnecessary.
Unnecessary.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah.
Unnecessary, distracting us from the real issues at hand, which is exactly how I feel about some of the Essence Fest business
Mm-hmm.
and
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
this sudden vitriol for Black immigrants that I also I have layers. I have layers of thoughts to this, layers and layers of thoughts to this.
Same, 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 same.
But I'm like, whole time we over here having this argument, the people who are actually perpetuating the oppression, who are responsible for the anti-blackness here, who are responsible for the imperialism and colonialism that are happening in black countries elsewhere, that therefore caused other people to move here. They are all just sitting pretty. They're just, going out the back door unscathed. Don't none of the fingers pointing back to them. Um, but yeah, this Essence Fest business. Let's get into that. What's
Let's get into that, and we
happening?
will, because people are. This is a wild situation to me.
Hmm. Yeah, and I
Well,
also got to say that it is something that has been unfortunately over the internet, like building over
hmm
years
I
and
was just going to
years,
say
hmm
this
that. Yeah.
movement of people who have been advocating for Black folks who have been here for many generations, whose ancestors during the transatlantic slave trade were brought here to be classified as like our own separate group. It started with ADOS, which is like American Descendants of Slavery. We can get into how that phrase don't even make sense because it's the if you're trying to limit to the United States, there are Americas plural,
Thank you.
so even your phrasing there doesn't make sense. But anyway, um largely started on the internet. I don't know the names of the people who have been perpetuating that movement the most, except for Tariq Nasheed. Fuck that dude. Fuck him.
hmm
I will say it publicly anywhere. I will say it on a train. I will say it on a plane. I will say it on a hill. I will say it anywhere. Fuck that dude.
On a train in the rain, on a
Listen,
Green eggs and
box with a
anywhere
ham.
fox.
because he's xenophobic and misogynist. Very misogynistic against black women as well. Has a history of it that's just open out there on the internet for anybody to see. So there's reason enough to question this movement. But um, then I think it's turned into a phrasing of foundational black Americans, um, which again, I'm like, I see where some of the desire comes from, uh, because black folks here who have been here over generations and generations, like, yeah. family didn't have any other stops in the diaspora for significant amounts of time. There is a particular, like, cultures. There are cultures that we have created and popularized that have then been exploited or not been attributed back to us, or that we don't get to see all the profits of. And of course, with American education right now being terrible, there's all kinds of history that is not being conveyed. Just the fact that we have built so much of what anything that people are using in this country, any infrastructure, anything that makes our modern lives what it is. I get the real pain and um, frustration from that. And so I see how having a term that distinguishes us when necessary can be useful. But that's not what these movements are quite advocating for.
Yeah.
They are basically arguing that we are very, very distinct from other peoples, that we should kind of have a more separatist, I would say, kind of agenda that prioritizes us over other Black folks in this country. And that I don't, that's the part that feels dangerous. And also, I will say I think it is perpetuating some very, very white, very capitalist, very imperialist ideas of what it means to be a people or what it means to be a nation. Um, and I think, yeah. Anyway, that's some of the background of where this is coming from. I just want to say that it's been building over a long time, and I fear that in the 2025 of it all, when there's so much mess going on and people are like grasping for people, people are uncertain, people are scared, people are dealing with like real material hardship. Um, I fear that it is easier to grasp on to uh, more right wing ideologies,
Hmm.
especially the ones that are trying to disguise themselves as something else. But at the root of the ADOS movement and all that is a very right wing ideology, pretty much, especially when you think about who it benefits in the end. Um, yeah, yeah. So Essence Fest.
Ooh, you just took us to kinfolk.
You know, I gotta give the people a little education, a little political education. Yeah.
Little impromptu episode. I like
Yeah.
it. So, yes, Essence Fest. Where do we begin? So, it sounds like this year's Essence Fest was a bit of a mess, for a number of different reasons. But it seems like there's a lot of backlash from what I've seen on the internet, and you all let me know if my sort of reading of the situation is lacking in some way. But from what I've seen, a lot of people who attended were upset. Of course, there were some production issues and things like that. Um, but there was a sense, a feeling, some complaints that sort of the Black American essence, so to speak, pun not intended, um, of the entire festival, which takes place every year in New Orleans. Most of you all, I'm sure, know that. But that was lost, that there were a number of vendors and caterers local to New Orleans who were not invited. Because Essence Fest, or well, Essence, was recently sold to a company that is led by a man of Liberian descent. The new CEO is Caroline Wanga, who is Kenyan, but was raised here in Minnesota. Um, and that there were a lot more vendors, a lot more activities, a lot more just a sense that there was a lot more sort of Africanness rather than African Americanness. And that for whatever reason, some of the soul of the festival was lost. Like, we're not, celebrating the African Americanness of it. We're having, jollof rice competitions and one woman, came out and said something around one of the organizers said something about like the originals are here, and that was extremely offensive to folks. And yeah, it is turning into a bit of a kerfuffle. But I think those are the basics. Did I miss anything? Probably. That was very rudimentary.
No, I think you covered it, right?
Mhm.
Mm.
And
Oh, just that I need someone to explain to me what tethers are, because I keep seeing that in this conversation as well.
the tethers is my favorite new slur. It is a
Oh no.
OC. It is a term that's used to refer to non-US born or sort of rooted Black people. So that would be Caribbean people, Afro Latinos, Africans, Black British, Black Canadians, everybody else. Um, and what they're implying is that there's some level of cultural imposter happening, because they're saying that diasporic Black people are copying, imitating, or appropriating Black culture, without having had to go through the historical challenges of US based chattel slavery. So that is part of the thinking, and the tether comes from this idea that like there is a connection without actually being close to the thing itself. I which I don't
Mhm.
enjoy. I don't like the leash aspect of it. Like I feel like there are all kinds of very unpleasant images that are evoked, especially around how the West portrays Africans, right, as subhuman, that I don't like with this idea. Like I don't like any of it. I think it as as one of you or maybe both of you said earlier, I feel like it really is connected to this whole moment where in we're dealing with like this wild authoritarianism. So like there's this intense scarcity mindset that shows up everywhere, and
Hmm.
people are just sort
Mhm.
of holding on to something, right? I've had conversations about this where like the idea of like reparations has come up, and it's like I don't I'm not trying to take anybody's reparations. Like I live in Manhattan. What am I going to do with 40 acres and or a mule? Like it's not any of that. Like, but to me, what it is this moment of separation, because people are worried that the things, the sort of cultural cachet as well as like material aspects of their experience are going to be taken by Black people who haven't had to experience the same thing or don't have a stake in the same basic, you know, history, which is challenged by the actual history, A, of the Caribbean, and B, of
Hmm.
the rest of the Americas. If
That's
there
why
are
I made
Black,
that face when you first said that. I was like,
I mean,
but.
I and as an historian of race in America, like this one really makes my ass itch, because if there is a Black person who can uh, claim any place in the Americas as their place of origin, it is a stop on that transatlantic slave trade, and it is because they were brought to an island or a country or likely Brazil in the same ways that people were brought to the US. You know, Damien always refers to it as, on what stop did you get off on the boat? Because the boats were literally making their way from West Africa across the way. Like it's not like if you are, I don't know, Jamaican, that you were like chilling on an island in enjoying all of this wonderful freedom and no ties to the British slave trade. You know, like that's I don't know what people, I don't know what history people are thinking we're playing out. And you add to it something like in the Caribbean and in West and Central Africa, most of those places were colonies
Mm-hmm.
until the
Mm-hmm.
60s, right? Like our parents were
Mm-hmm.
alive when these places were literal colonies. So like that image, it's not the right one. And I worry about the thinking where there is the need to separate people out, especially because I don't know how long it takes for a Black person from a different part of a world to feel like they are a part of the same uh, project that has made African Americans. I think it happens to be one generation because it doesn't take a whole lot for you to be maneuvering around this country and to be like, oh, yeah, totally second class citizen here, right? And in exactly the ways that Black Americans talk about regularly. So that is also a piece that just drives me crazy. And then the other thing, depending upon the immigrant group, there are a lot of us who have been here for like, I don't know, 100 years or more, right? Like West Indians in this country, in this city, the city where I live, that is not a new phenomenon, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that is 100-year-old story. Marcus Garvey was here creating all kinds of beautiful confusion over 100 years ago, right? Like literally interacting with Du Bois and Booker T. Washington and Carter G. Woodson and all those people. So like
Yeah.
there's the other part of like, not only are we part of the same, you know, macro group, we are literally in the same families, like with intermarriage and people
Mm-hmm.
living in the same buildings, and my cousins live in this country or in this country or et cetera, et cetera. And it just, it bugs the hell out of me personally because my very Black family is from all over the very Black world, like literally all over the place. But it also bugs me because so many of our families are from all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, this is imaginary and it's making a separation over the biggest bits of nonsense. This is the last thing I'm going to say about it because I'm so mad. I'm so mad I could start talking crazy. I'm going to try to control it. But where I have seen this pop up twice recently in the new Superman movie, there is an actor, I think his name is Edie Gategi or something like that, who plays Mr. Terrific. He is of African origin, Mr. Terrific, a comic book character. That comic book character is from the United States. And there was all of this talk online about how dare they give this African American role to this African actor. I'm like, the man lives in space. Like, what are y'all talking about? Like, we could be using our energy actually directing it at something that is an actual concern. And like a couple years ago when they remade the Wonder Years with that all Black family, and I believe all four or five of the main actors, I didn't watch the original Wonder Years, so I didn't watch the makeover either. They were all either first generation Black immigrants or something of the like, right? Mostly West African and Caribbean extraction. And people were very up in arms about the casting of these very, very talented actors on this show in that way. And I think if somebody wants to make a critique about actors of British extraction getting a lot of roles here in the States, I think that is an interesting discussion that has a lot more to do with uh, the differently sophisticated theater training that they have in the UK than what they have here. And I will
Ding,
say
ding,
that as a person with
ding.
a theater degree who was in a theater program that recommended that we all go to the UK for a year
Mm-hmm.
because they even felt over there, we're paying all that money to go to Columbia. And they're like, take y'all asses over to England where you will get properly trained. That's what that conversation is because it certainly happens with white folks, right? That
Mm-hmm.
is not about somebody trying to race Black people. That's about the ways that people frequently are cast on TV shows here, which have to do with Instagram follower counts, as opposed to how well you can sit into those scripts. And y'all can be mad at me about that. I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you what people do. But this is just bugging me because this is about nothing. This is like literally about like nobody even watched the Wonder Years. So like what are y'all getting mad about? The people who are getting mad about it also didn't watch the show and wouldn't have, right? Like it's absolute nonsense that's really about a scarcity mentality that could be addressed better if we were able to come together and literally talk through one of those things because whatever was said about, oh, the originals are here now, yeah, that's a really ugly and stupid statement. And there's like no reason to make statements like that, especially when you know that that bothers people, right? But it also kind of makes me wonder what was the impetus for saying that? Was it because the person who I'm assuming was of Nigerian descent was hearing all of this anti-African sentiment constantly and maybe that provoked that remark? I don't know, but moving in a lot of the circles I move in, I hear a lot of anti-African sentiment coming from Black Americans, right? And I know where that comes from. It comes from the American education system, right? Like it's baked in Black Americans and anybody who's gone through the American education system, just like it's baked in for white Americans and everybody else. Like that's been part of the educational project. So now I'm mad and probably rambling. So I'm going to pause for a very long second, but I think this is nonsense. Like I think it's so stupid and tethers is just it's ugly. It's an ugly way to refer to another black person who in a lot of instances you may not even know us from a different part of the world unless you engage them in an actual conversation. And then what? Like what does it even mean? Wait, actually I'm going to say one other thing because this made me mad when it happened. So a few years ago I was in South Africa and I was attending a lecture and there was a South African scholar who, on a PowerPoint, which meant that he thought about it before he said it, he drew a similar kind of distinction where he talked about Africans as being the true, what he referred to as the true black man, and then removed a degree was the Caribbean, and then removed several degrees was the Black American, who, in his opinion, may as well have been a white person. You can imagine how this went over with the
Oof.
Black Americans in the room, and also everybody else. Everybody was like, this is giving full of
Ay,
shit."
ay,
Those are
ay.
fighting words.
No, it
Yeah.
really was, and I don't. I mean, he was a provocateur, but like, I don't know he was ready for like the kind of comments that were coming from the audience because this was a scholarly conference. So like, all of these angry Black academics in America who love moments like this were really ready with their comments. So I recognize this is a thing that moves in both directions, but it doesn't need to move in either direction because it's pointless. And I don't know what any of it accomplishes. And I also don't think any of it is rooted in any actual kind of anthropologic or historical or sociological thought. Like it just sounds like a bunch of nonsense from people who need to find something better to do. No, I really am done.
I say I do think that while the overall direction of the arguments are nonsense, I would be lying if I said that I haven't experienced many times a sort of what would you call this? Probably a mix of classism and anti-blackness that has come from I would say especially, well, no, black folks from other parts of the diaspora in general. I was gonna say mostly Nigerians. Nigerians do kind of be the main ones, and I think that there
A little
are
bit.
some historical reasons for that. But I'll be lying if I said I've never seen some real looking down upon Black Americans. Like that is definitely a thing that happens, or um people immigrating here and like being told like, oh, don't hang out with Black Americans too much, or don't be like them, or um really, I think believing stereotypes about us and also not having the full history of what has happened here. That is a real thing too. And looking at our conditions and blaming it solely on us. Why can't these people just do right? Why can't these people just get it together within their communities? That is real, and I don't always know what to do with that. But I do think that one of like the best things we can do overall is if people is still point to the bring it right on back to whiteness, bring it back right on back to that, and remind ourselves that those folks are doing that in order to fit like a model minority kind of status in order because they think that that's what's gonna get them ahead. Some people learn, some people don't. Um, and I also remember a few weeks ago when we were talking about Essence Fest, I think there's more conversation to be had about classism as
Hmm.
well and where that factors in. Um, there are some people who immigrate, and again, this is one of those things where I've especially seen this from Nigerians. I'm sure other people in the diaspora too, but who hold a higher class status where they come from, and they bring those ideas over here too. Uh, and that is just a part of their treatment of people. But again, that doesn't always have to do with them being Nigerian or Cameroonian or wherever they're from. Like that is a classism thing, is a thing that Black Americans do as well. Look down upon each other.
Mhm.
Um,
Hmm.
Somebody who is Black American could have gone and did the same thing with Essence Fest. Um, and to bring it back to like Essence Fest in particular, I also hear like the real concern there. Like Essence Fest for a
Hmm.
long time, a big part of it is that it is in New Orleans. It is in New Orleans. It is in the deep South. And it reflects like Black culture there. There is a way to do Essence Fest that would disenfranchise Black New Orleanians. There's definitely a way to do that, the way you move business wise, the way you move with your programming. Um, and I do think though it's a Black space and I would love to see it celebrate all of us, I personally don't think there's anything wrong with saying like this is who the festival centers, or with saying that we are going to prioritize New Orleans, or we are going to prioritize Black American culture. I don't know about all the history of Essence magazine, but I just know that it was, from what I saw growing up, it was very, very rooted in like Black American culture here, and that's its readership and like who has been supporting the publication. So from that perspective, it also makes sense. But that is very different from saying that is who we set, who is going to be centered, or that's what who most of this programming is going to revolve around, is very different from then going back and saying, oh, and all these people are tethers, and all everybody else is no, we can't no have no jollof rice at this fence. No, we can't do this. No, don't invite no Afro beats artists. Da 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 da. Da. Like, I think there is a difference between saying like here's who we should center versus here's who we should exclude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I
Like, I
I
feel
do
like
know
there's
what you're
room for
saying.
all of us. There's room
Hmm.
for all of us with it still being able to center the people who originated it or who have caused it to flourish into this mega festival that it is now. But the separation don't make sense because I'm sure even among those folks, there's plenty of Black Caribbean people. There's probably plenty of folks from the continent who are just one or two generations removed. And I will always remind people, Black Americans, if you have an uncle named Maceo, I don't want to hear you
Mhm.
talking.
Mhm.
Don't want to
Mhm.
hear you talking.
Mhm.
Maceo. When I learned that, as someone who has an uncle named Maceo, I think two of them. I learned that that name was taken from the a leader of the Cuban independence.
Mhm.
Uh, and Black Americans were inspired by that and was like, okay, we naming our children Maceo. And us responding, us pronouncing it the way we pronounce it. We're not gonna say Maceo, it's Maceo. Um, so we've always been influencing each other, playing off of each other. Hello, the Marcus Garvey of it all.
Mhm.
Hello, jazz musicians. We're constantly talking to each other across the diaspora.
Just the
My
New Orleans of it all.
The New Orleans of it all. New Orleans is a Caribbean city. Like it is a Black American Caribbean city. Like it is all of those things at the same time. My own grandmother loved Afro-Brazilian music and samba. When I look at her records, that's a bunch of what's in there. Like I don't know why we're acting like we just have this stark separation. That's not real. And I would say part of what is even advanced our cultures to be so uh global and so enticing is because we are talking to each other across continents even. So I'm not interested in that kind of separation. I'm interested in giving credit where credit is due, and people who originated a thing or have largely stewarded a thing or a culture or artistic legacy getting credit for that and not being exploited. But we don't need this separation. We're losing the plot. We're losing the plot, is
Hmm.
what I feel.
It's because you can hold nuance, and there's a lot of nuance in what you were pointing out just now, right? And I think for me, with a lot of those points around like the intersection of class and nationality, right? Thinking about if you are a Nigerian, if you are of Nigerian descent and you are immigrating to the US, what has your uh, sort of primary school and secondary school education been informed by, right? Like a British read on American history in all likelihood. And again, not trying to be like making an excuse for anybody. I think it's that nuance that becomes really valuable when I was living abroad and having to sit with how much of folks in Europe and Asia knew of Black culture came from the double diffusing of first going through some kind of European lens and then going through a white American lens. It was like, well, of course you either know nothing about my existence or you think or everything you know is completely negative because what America is putting out there about Black people into the
Hmm.
world for them to know about us. So even if you're another Black person, like you're still going to be like, well, damn, what are y'all doing? Right. Like I really did I felt like I learned where to put that kind of thing and also like how to counter it. But it was the where to put it, like being able to put it in a very specific bucket was very helpful to me and those relationships that I wanted to develop, really thinking through, okay, how do I make sure I present a very different experience of a person who's grown up here? And here are the things about our culture I want you to take away. And here's the things about the read on our culture that I also want you to understand that are incorrect. But then sort of relatedly, um, like that, this idea that how to center the people, what does it mean to center the people who started something as opposed to centering the people who are going to patronize it right now? I think that's a very funny financial conversation. And I actually think a lot about this relative to something the three of us were talking about with pride celebrations. This was years ago, maybe like 4 years ago. I feel like we've known each other longer than we have. I was about to say it's like 10 years ago, but it's most assuredly not.
Sometimes
But
it
like
feels like
it,
that.
it
Yeah.
it really does. Like a lot has happened since 2020. But like thinking about who Pride is for right now and why some of Pride looks so different, and how I personally feel caught in the middle between a version of Pride that I enjoy more than like the longer term, like a differently activisty version of Pride. Now I kind of enjoy like fun Pride, right? I don't think that we're ever supposed to lose, the bricks through Stonewall window kind of pride. But at the same time, that's also not where most of us live in this moment, especially here in New York City, where, New York is one of the great gay cities on the planet, right? And I think a lot about any number of things that the way centering shifts when if a group of people is being decentered because another group of people is being centered. I feel like there is a real question of why that's happening. What does it mean? Was this a moment of erasure, or is this a moment of responding to financial realities, or is this a moment of, hey, now we're in charge of it and we see it like this, which is just kind of a normal process of how things continue to live. And I don't have the answers for Essence Fest, and I don't pretend like I have the answers for Pride either. But I feel like there's a set of questions that I think are fair ones to raise about why a thing is changing in a given moment and what is meant by that. And that's one of the things I did wonder when we were talking about this, I guess 2 weeks ago, that I was really wondering about Essence Fest. Like, is some of the shift around like a financial model that just, when I remember everybody talking about the Essence Fest in the 90s, like the financial model clearly has just shifted now, right? So like what is it, and why? And if there is an intention to erase a previous generation, then I think that needs to be called out. If there is something that's happening though to expand it because it's really expensive to produce stuff like that, um, I think about Afropunk and how it doesn't, it's not fun to me anymore because it feels super commercial. But I also am like, I went 20 years ago. Like, it's not supposed to look the same. It's a totally different group of people there who are going for different reasons. But yeah, to my old ass, it feels super unfun. So I don't know. Like, I think there's more conversation that we're supposed to be having about the wherefores and whys, because I think Black people and what it means to be Black, it is shifting. It is becoming a differently diasporic thing. And what do we do with that in a way that doesn't make anybody feel excluded, but doesn't make anybody feel excluded, right?
Mhm. It's interesting you bring up Afropunk because I could do a whole oh no, don't get me started on Afropunk. Oh God. Breaks my heart. But it's like where I guess maybe it comes down to like the capitalism of it all and the need to center profit. Because what if what does it look like for a festival, a large festival to stick to its roots or its values? And maybe that doesn't mean that it just grows larger and larger every year. Maybe it means that one year they have to scale back a bit, but in order to stay true to its values or why it was created in the first place. Like is there room for that in this capitalist hellscape we live in right now? Because
I
that's
feel like
definitely
that's
what
a fair
happened with
question.
Afropunk.
That's a
Right,
very fair
Yeah.
question.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as we're thinking about like who it's supposed to continue to honor, I went with a big group of friends 3 years in a row, and it really was like 20-ish years ago. It was before I met Damien, so it was definitely about 20 years ago. And then we didn't go anymore, and it's not even a thing that would come up like now in our current group chat. And I know some of the reason is, husbands and kids, and just like a different life moment, right? Like, I would be fine to watch snippets of it on YouTube, but I would not be fine to put on my fine feathers, dig out a crop top, and do all of the things that somebody who is my age, I'm damn near 40 now, like, would have to do to be able to go to this kind of thing. Like, so what is it? Who is it for? Isn't it for people Paige's age and younger, even younger? Like, I don't know, but like I frequently think about this kind of relative to every single thing that I like. I mentioned being with friends yesterday, and we were having a conversation. We were like, put on some music. And our one friend, whose house it was, because we were in the burbs and we were in an actual house, not an apartment for once, turned on the radio, and we were horrified because we couldn't make heads or tails out of what we were listening to. And it was purportedly the oldie station. They said they were
Oh.
playing music from our time, but it was not oldies for people born in the early 80s. It was oldies, I think, for people born in the early 90s. And it hurt each and every one of my feelings. So it just, like, these moments kind of beg a lot of questions around like the culture, right?
Mm,
And I do think we sort of adhere too much to, to giving the youth what it is that they want in any of these kinds of cultural moments. But I guess maybe they're the ones who are spending not just the money, but the time, right? They're spending the time with it. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know if this is like an appropriate response to what we were talking about earlier, but I do feel like for me, it's all of a piece of there's a cultural shift that has happened in this country that has affected how we understand gender and race and ethnicity and and like the confluence of all of those things, and sometimes I feel very much on the outside of it, and I do feel like a big part of my life in the last couple of years has been trying to make sense of what it means to feel like I'm on the outside of so much of our culture, when I felt like for so much of my life I had my finger on the pulse. And
oh
now
my
I
God.
can't find the pulse, and I don't always know that I want to.
I feel that on an atomic level. Like, oh my goodness, I mean, I am younger than you, but just
Younger than who?
just a few years.
Babe, I was
But
born on a leap year. You might want to look that up.
no, but I don't think I told you this story, but when we were at Pride, um, we were hanging out with some friends, and my husband is a few years older than me, and we were hanging out with some friends who were his age. And so, I was the baby of the group. And then I walked up to the bar, and these young men in their little crop tops and short shorts, as I walked past them, one of them went, "Daddy." And I just was like, oh, what? And it broke. I mean, it was very flattering, but correct, but but it broke my brain. It broke my brain, and it was just like, oh my God, I guess I'm old. It's
Yeah,
official.
you are.
It's just crazy. But yeah,
At
I
least what a
mean,
pleasant way to be told. At
I
least a
get
pleasant way to be informed
it was a
that
very
you're old now.
complimentary, lovely way to be informed that I'm decrepit and obsolete. But still fuckable in a pitiable way, I guess. But yeah, I mean, getting back to the Essence Fest thing. I mean, I do, I feel a fair amount of empathy for the folks who did feel excluded. But I wonder, if when we're talking about centering things, if it just evolves into something where we're sort of centering different parts of the diaspora, year by year or something like that. Some way that we can all feel included, because I was watching sort of the back and forth, and there was this one creator on TikTok I saw who was sort of like putting red strings in between like the pictures of metaphorical red strings between like the picture, like it was born by this Liberian, or it was bought by this Liberian man, and the CEO is Kenyan, and they all had a meeting on May 19th with the Nigerian Cultural Council, and da 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 da, and they are trying to erase us, and da 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 da, and all this stuff. And I just was like, this is not the issue. We are giving whiteness and conservatism and white supremacy and Christian national. We are playing right into their hands. They're just watching us like throw these stones at each other that are just made out of nothing, when it's just like we could just have a conversation. And it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that there aren't, as you both have been beautifully pointing out the nuances of these topics. Like we could actually have a conversation about the nuances of this and create something. Like not everything's going to be perfect. Like maybe this year, like, there were changes that were made and they didn't all work. Doesn't mean that next year we can't like change some of the changes and create something that feels better for everyone. Instead of this sort of culture that we have where we're just sort of throwing rocks at each other. And just again, it's counterproductive and unnecessary when we could be coming together in our full power and making things better for everyone.
Yeah.
Like it just seems obvious to me, but maybe that's because I'm outside on the margins and I'm looking in and, I'm not sort of in the middle of it. Because I'm old.
You, you, you know, one other thing though that I want to add, because I feel like this one thing that's kind of been absent from our conversation is the civics angle. And it is a lot easier to move like a Project 2025 agenda through if there is no sense of connectedness
Mhm.
between Black people who live in America and who vote from different
Mhm.
parts of the world. And if you can sort of build out this argument that has worked so well with white people, especially working class white people, which is the immigrants are here to take stuff from you and everybody can turn all their ire to them, becomes a lot easier to do what's
Mhm.
happening right now. And that to me is also part of why this all makes me very nervous, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know, even certain kinds of framings about why we can't have like rice jollof on the same plate as we have salt fish and ackee, and as we also have I don't know, because I don't really eat a lot of Brazilian food, but like if why can't we have all of that on the same plate?
Mhm.
Right. And thinking about why people are so committed to a version of acknowledgement that I feel like runs counter to a lot of people's experience. Like I don't know. Like I feel like there's a thing that's happening, right? I do watch the Jubilee debates, and I'm even hearing it
Oh,
with
wow. That's a
well,
bridge too far for me.
well, I have to, because as a professional fundraiser, I deal in parts of political reality that are different from our own, and I
Mm.
kind of need to know what I'm walking into. But one thing I will say is like I was hearing some some very interesting, white people separating their heritage from the British Isles as these other kinds of white people who come from like the mainland of Europe, and I was like, damn, this isn't good for anybody,
Hmm.
and it's also not realistic. The numbers of foundational Black or white Americans here who are purely from, I'm 100% British Isles stock, or I'm 100% Mandingo. That is some fiction between y'all and Raven Simone and my 23andMe, and y'all need to let it go. Y'all
Hmm.
sound crazy every time you talk like that. Um, I don't know. I think I'm fatigued. I think I'm fatigued by America. Um, so maybe it's good news that they will soon be getting rid of me. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
I guess it's just whenever I hear these types of debates and I hear that kind of rhetoric, especially between Black folks, I'm just picturing like Donald Trump and JD Vance, like, sitting there with their fingers together, like, excellent, it's all working. And it's just like, like, I can't. It's just like, we have to stop. We have to stop. It just drives me crazy. But I also am feeling fatigued. I could use some pure black joy. How do you all feel?
Yes. Amen. Ashe.
All right. Well, we'll be right back with a little bit of pure black joy then. And we are back. It is time for Pure Black Joy. This is the segment where we talk about the Black people, places, and things that are making us happy this week. Would anyone like to go first?
I have a very quick one that I wasn't expecting to talk about today because I wasn't expecting it to happen. But apparently, this weekend in Las Vegas, Tenitria Michelle Williams, who is one of my all-time favorite singers, got together with some other people, and they did this cute little piece of a reunion. And it only brought up for me the need to make this request to one of them, Mrs. Carter. I know
Hmm.
you were busy. I know you were up to things. All we need is like a Destiny's Child EP that can just be 4 tracks. Like we just want to
Yep.
hear what y'all have been up to, have Michelle jump across a couple of them bridges again. Just do what y'all used to do back in the olden days of Afro punk and the original Essence Fest, and just give us a couple of good tracks for next summer. That's all. But y'all
That
look
would be
great.
so.
Y'all looked absolutely amazing in everybody's Instagram stories. Little did I know that half of the people I know were in Vegas this past weekend and didn't bother to say anything to me about it.
Mm.
Did they know that this was happening?
I mean, maybe one of these old geezers does have their fingers on
Eh,
somebody's pulse somewhere, but I don't know how they knew. But like a group of my friends made the sojourn and got to see it in person. And I am extremely jealous, but also really happy and excited that maybe after the third album in Beyonce's Triptych, we will get our DC reunion album.
yeah. When Jesus say yes.
Right.
Well, mine is super quick. So we were talking about maybe delving in to some 80s or 90s black sitcoms. Rest in peace to Malcolm Jamal Warner. First of all, that was
Mhm.
so sad. Um, but I just had this little moment the other night. I was scrolling on TikTok as I'm often wont to do, and I came upon this clip, and it's Erica Alexander and Kim Coles are doing a little Living Single rewatch podcast, reliving
Reliving
single.
single. It's
Mm-hmm.
so good.
And I didn't realize this, but it was this clip of Erica Alexander talking to TC Carson, who of course played Kyle. And it was this moment where she was talking about not working with him anymore and how it was like she had lost a piece of her soul because she was like he was her partner, her comedy partner, the best comedy partner that she's ever had, and losing him was like losing her right arm, and Maxine cannot, exist. I mean, the like all the architecture of the character of Maxine is sort
Yeah.
of built around, you know, working with Kyle and working with TC, and they both were like crying, and then I started crying,
Oh.
and I was like, I need to rewatch Living Single, and I need to listen to this podcast. It was so sweet, and I was just like, oh, it just filled me up with like, just memories from my childhood and teenagehood, and I'm old, I know. But yeah, so shout out to all the ladies from Living Single and everyone involved in this podcast because it was just really sweet. And maybe we should rewatch Living Single when we're done with RuPaul's Drag Race. I don't
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm down.
know.
That's so special. I want to watch the podcast now because the two of them really are comedic gold.
hmm
Kyle and Maxine, like you can see the moments where they're struggling to not break character because they're just cracking each other up. That's the best.
Such a good show.
It was such a good show.
So good.
And they're the ones that
Well,
need the reparations because friends.
Honey,
I'm just saying.
okay.
honey.
I'm just saying.
Justice for living single.
Yep.
Them first when the reparations come.
Truly, I agree. Well, my pure black joy, as we talked about the need for diasporic solidarity and not infighting, There's a new law in Benin granting citizenship to descendants of slavery. And apparently Sierra is among one of the first to
Oh.
get her Benin citizenship. Um, yes.
She and her goodies are out of here.
Hmm.
Right, right. Well,
A
this just brings
1-2 step
me
on over to
joy.
Benin.
Shoot, I'm a one two step right behind her. But for real, I'm trying to visit Benin because it seems beautiful, and as someone into African spirituality, they've maintained it quite strong over there.
Mhm.
And I've just met several people from there who have a good head on their shoulders when it comes to um, solidarity amongst Black people across the diaspora. I'm pretty sure you can go on YouTube and still find a video of them like doing ceremony and prayers of goodness and protection for when right around when George Floyd was murdered. Um, and was very much like, we see you, we see the injustice happening over there. We are you and you are us, and we understand that we are connected. So shout out to Benin. Shout out to the people getting their citizenship. I might follow behind you. We will
I
see.
know that's right.
Mhm. Oh my goodness, what a show, what a day, what a time we live in.
What a time.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, we'll see y'all in 2 weeks from Benin. But until then, y'all be easy, please. Subscribe and follow us on the social medias and tell your friends about us and leave us a review, most importantly, if you enjoy what you hear. If you did not enjoy what you hear, you can just keep going. You don't need to tell us. We don't need to know. Thank you so much. But 5 stars, 5 stars. And we will be back in 2 weeks with the next episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 11. If you are watching along with us, I believe it is a ball, which after several
Flunkers.
lackluster episodes, I'm very excited about revisiting because I love a ball. It's one of my favorite challenges. So join us for that. I'm hoping it will be joyful, and I'm sure there'll be some mess. But until then, any words of wisdom for the people?
I'm glad that Candace Owens is getting sued.
Ooh, who's suing her?
Brigitte Macron.
Brigitte Macron.
Because,
Yeah.
Candace has been doing trans investigations or something, and has been claiming for years that this woman is transgender. She may be a lot of things, but that is not accurate. And she and her husband, the head of state in France, are suing Candace for the tomfoolery. And I'm glad. I'm glad about it.
Huh.
The appropriate response. Yes, it's a weird story, even for this episode of Weird Stories.
Well, okay.
Then I guess the other word of wisdom is just a reminder that it costs $0 to mind your business when
Ooh.
it comes to trans people.
Ooh.
Fuck around and find out.
It's $0. Free 99.
And I guess for the rest of us, expect the unexpected. Well, on that note, I think we're gonna leave it there. But we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.